that's
So
what counts.
me and Rourke started having a discussion about a particular topic that is a pretty controversial one, but that's pretty on brand for the show. So I figured we could talk about it here. So
It looks like a job to us, so everybody just follow us because we need a little controversy.
right. So Rourke, if you don't mind, since you're the one who brought it up, I wanted you to iterate your issue that you had, and then I was going to give my thoughts on the whole thing.
All right. So, in the simplest words possible, a certain irritation came to me just as we were starting the stream, in which I hate when people go into an argument with somebody else about certain issues, and something they bring up is listen to blank voices in the argument. And that's always bugged me because for me, it's such a monolithic and like thought terminating argument that really ruins any of the actual like contentions you have when addressing a certain issue or a certain topic, whether it be saying listen to Asian voices or listening to trans voices or listening to queer voices, listening to black voices, whatever it is, that argument always bugs me. But the monolith argument is the only one I can bring up. Whereas she can actually like further elaborate on it. And that's why I'm giving her the floor, because she also doesn't like that argument but can postulate why in a much better way than I can. So with that said, you have the floor.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll do my best. I've heard this argument a lot, right? Listen to trans women. Listen to black people. Listen to blah, blah, blah. Whatever, insert marginalized group here. Okay. I have a nuanced view on this. I think that you should, as a rule, take, in general, okay, there are totally exceptions, but as a rule, especially if you're not a part of a certain marginalized group, you should certainly take the opinions of someone within that marginalized group, again, in general, as a rule, into consideration. For sure, because they've had that experience and you haven't. That is completely understandable. However, are you going to tell me with a straight face that you would rather listen to Candace Owens talk about black issues over, I don't know, Noam Chomsky? Or some educated white person? Are you seriously telling me that since Candace Owens is a black woman, I mean, she's a grifter. She doesn't even believe what she says. I mean, she sued her own fucking university for racial discrimination and now claims that fucking systemic racism doesn't exist. So, like, she's a total fucking grifter. She doesn't believe anything she says. So, or are you gonna listen to Blair White on trans issues? Really? Really? Does Blair White's lived experience hold that much credence that you're going to listen to someone like Blair White simply because she has that lived experience? No! Because experiences are important. But you know what else is important? Is education. Education. There are a lot of people who are uneducated. There are a lot of trans people, and I'm going to use trans people as an excuse because I myself am trans, so I'm allowed to talk about this issue, and none of the woke scolds can fucking say a goddamn word about it, because I am a trans woman, and you should listen to me simply because I am a trans woman. I have met trans women who have the most ridiculous, over-the-top, crazy opinions on trans issues, other issues as well, but on trans issues specifically. I have heard some of the craziest fucking shit you will ever hear. Okay? So, the point is, the central thesis is that by using this argument, you yourself are actually bigoted. Yes, you are. Because, like Rourke said, you are putting this group of marginalized people into a monolith as if they all believe the same way, when they clearly don't. Black people have people like Jesse Lee Peterson and Ben Carson and Herman Cain. Rest in pieces. Okay? Trans people have people like Blair White and Calvin Gara. Okay? So, trans people and any marginalized people are not a monolith. There's a myriad of different opinions. You'll find conservative people, you'll find liberals, you'll find leftists, you'll find fascists, you'll find any type of political ideology within any sort of marginalized group. So, this idea that we should simply listen to marginalized people by default and simply take their word for it because it's their lived experience. Newsflash, not every marginalized person has the same lived experience. Rich black families exist. Black CEOs exist. You think the children of a black CEO that's a multimillionaire is going to have the same experience as a poor black kid in the fucking hood in a fucking urban area? You really think that those two black people have the same lived experience? One has certainly experienced systemic racism way more than the other. Not to say rich black people can't experience systemic racism, but I would probably say, right, I would make the educated guess that the second category has experienced it a lot fucking more. Right? So, not everyone within a marginalized group has even had the same lived experience. Right? There are commonalities that you can find in the majority of a certain marginalized people. Right, there are things that me as a trans person who has been entrenched in trans culture for many years understand that the average cis person simply wouldn't. Just like there are black people who have lived in black neighborhoods their entire life and have experienced systemic racism their entire life that have had experiences that I will never have. But that does not mean by default that they ought to be listened to on any given issue. And, yeah, again, the central thesis is you are saying that these groups of people are monoliths, and that's pretty fucking racist. That's pretty fucking transphobic. That's pretty fucking bigoted, in my opinion. So how about, instead of listen to trans women, or listen to black people, how about we listen to educated people? How about that? People that are clearly educated on the issue, no matter what their race is. Because I would take someone who, fucking majored in, not majored in, but like, took critical race theory courses in legal studies and has a law degree. I would take their view more seriously on systemic racism than I would someone like Candace Owens or Ben Carson or Herman Cain. Again, rest in pieces.
Rip Ozo.
So, just, that's pretty much all I have to say. You're the real racist. The left are the Democrats are the real racists. Did you know that the Democrats founded the Ku Klux Klan? Did you know that?
No. Oh my god, I didn't know that.
Joe Biden himself was the first Grand Wizard. It's true. Look it up. It's true.
I am never voting for a Democrat again. I am voting red straight up. I'm voting for Mark Robinson for North Carolina in 2024. I'm voting for Donald Trump in the November election. I will make sure that the Dixiecrats never stay in power again.
Period. Fucking
True.
Preach, sister.
I think you put it very succinctly, and I'm glad that you mentioned that it's still important to, of course, like, experiences are important in trying to learn about social issues and political issues. It's just that very simply know what the fuck you're talking about. That's all we're asking for. Just
Right.
know what the fuck you're talking about. And for example, like even some like the biggest, for example, like advocates for the working class, like I'm gonna say the M word, Marx. Like Marx himself was not part of the proletariat, but his writings, like you don't even have to talk about. His birthday was like 4 days ago, but like he's still like such an important figure, and he didn't have to be part of that group that he was advocating for. But he seemed like hello?
I actually might take issue. So Marx wasn't a part of the proletariat. How though? I didn't think Marx had like a proper like job.
Wasn't he? He was like a journalist. He was like a. He started off as a liberal, right, and then he has headed more into leftism. But he wasn't part of like the factory working class. I think he'd be considered working class now, but like
Yeah.
at the time when he was writing, he obviously didn't write it from the perspective that he himself was part of that class.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, because my definition of working class is simply someone who's oppressed by capitalism. That's
Exactly.
Yeah. So okay, so you're right. I'm using like an anachronistic like I get what you mean now. I get it.
Which, to be fair, is I agree with that. Which, to be fair, in the modern lens, I would absolutely consider like Marx a worker. But yeah, in the context of like
Engels,
the
on the
19th
other hand,
Oh,
not so much.
textile mills.
Owned a factory, not exactly the most working class you can be.
But he did have a lot to say on authority, you know?
Oh god. That was like the worst. Okay, I don't want to say the worst. It was one of the worst pieces of leftist literature ever written, and I had to say one of the worst because fucking left-wing communism and infantile disorder also exists, but